Yeah, so right now, this is the spot. I'm hitting the psoas muscle. Alright, so starting off, you're going to want to find some ample space where you can lay fully flat. Now, what I'm going to do is start off by putting my hands and my knees on the ground. Slowly go into a semi-plank position. Then I'm going to place the two peaks of the PSO-RITE kind of around my upper ribs. And from here, I'm not going to insert it there. I'm just going to slide it down until where I feel is a good spot to start. And right now, it's located, the peaks are located between my lowest ribs and the actual hip bone right here. I'm not actually touching the hip bone or going lower than that. So again, I go into a semi-plank position, my knees and toes on the ground, elbows holding myself up for support. I start up high and then I gradually slide, wiggle if you need to, going down. And because the PSO-RITE is not a one-size-fits-all tool, everyone's routine is going to vary slightly. From here, I just like to first focus on my breathing. That's probably the biggest secret. The biggest tip is to work on your breathing, because a lot of people are going to be subconsciously holding their tension, just trying to resist and fight the feeling. So what you have to become conscious and aware of is relaxing your body. And a big key to doing that is focusing on your breathing and making sure you're in a relaxed state. Now, this is not the deepest the PSO-RITE can go. If you want it even deeper, what I like to do sometimes is just lean my body to either side. So if I want to focus on my left, for example, I'm going to shift my body over here. And sometimes you can even displace all of the weight onto one side, like so. A lot of it is a lot of twisting, not extreme twisting where you're manipulating your spine, just enough to manipulate the surrounding tissue. So what I'm doing is just giving some traction to my lower body. I'm just leaning from side to side with my feet and my hips. Already my hips and lower back are starting to loosen up. And another tip you guys can do is just cross your legs. It also gives a different sensation. And then what I'll do is lean my shoulders to one side. So before I was moving my lower body, this time I'm just crossing my legs and leaning from side to side with my upper body. Of course, if you want an even deeper stretch, you can go lower, and then eventually you get chest to the ground. And then I like to point my toes outwards and then just stretch my arms out. So one of the biggest questions I get is, how do you know you're actually hitting the psoas muscle and not some organ or some nerve or something? And the honest answer is, you will feel it when you feel it. So what I mean is, for example, I don't feel the peaks hitting my psoas muscle right away. That sensation has to be gradually achieved. So you're not just gonna lay on it and then hit the psoas muscle automatically. You need to designate a time throughout your day where you can really focus on taking your time to recover and rehab. My right side is the tightest side of my body that needs the most work. So one way to get even deeper is I'm gonna take my right knee, bring it up, and from there it kind of opens up a little pocket for the peak to insert even more. And then again, I'm just wiggling around and working the muscle. From here, what I'll do sometimes is cross my arms. My elbows are on the ground, my palms are up. Okay, I'm still supporting myself, and then slowly work my way to just fully laying flat. And most of the magic happens when you're doing nothing. And the deeper you breathe, and as I exhale, I feel the peak going in a little deeper, and my muscle fibers just opening up and loosening. The actual feeling, how I would describe it when it hits the psoas muscle, is like once it makes contact, you kind of feel your lower back, that sensation in your lower back where it's always achy or sore or tight. I feel that area starting to just kind of melt away, for lack of better words. Sometimes it takes about 10-15 minutes to get the right spot, but in the whole process itself is beneficial towards recovering your lower back or tight psoas muscle, hip flexor region. So all the work you're doing is not wasted effort. Again, you just have to play with the spots, work on your breathing, bring up your knees if you need to. All right, so right around here, I'm in a kind of an awkward position. My right knee is up, my elbows and hands are on the ground. I'm still supporting myself, and I'm kind of rotating my body towards my left shoulder, and that's putting the pressure on my right hip, right psoas area. And right here, I don't feel the contact of the peak really hitting the front of my body. I feel it hitting like a band of musculature in the back of my body. And when I move, I feel the sensation going across a band, basically your psoas muscle, which extends from the front of your body, hip flexor region. Your psoas starts around here, wraps around your hip, and attaches to your lower lumbar. And one of the telltale signs of you hitting the psoas is kind of not a bad nerve stinging pain, but a nerve relief. Basically, like if you've been suffering a lot of achiness or that pounding of pain, what you'll feel is a kind of like a relief, like there's no more pressure on your spine. Because if you have a tight psoas muscle, the psoas is actually going to be pulling and tugging on your vertebrae, your spine. So what that causes is radiating sensation sometimes, like a radiating, burning, achy pain. And from here, I'm lifting up my left leg, my left knee, still keeping pressure on my right psoas area. So you can either lift up your right knee or your left. Like I said, you have to play with it, explore different angles. And here, I just feel that whole psoas area, that band stretching from my hip flexor that wraps around to my lower back and lumbar. I feel it kind of opening up and expanding. And once you hit that spot, what you want to do to lock in the results is to breathe. And once you exhale, You focus on going deeper. And when you exhale out, my body, what it does actually sinks more into it. If you can imagine a lot of muscle fibers kind of compact together, once you breathe in and breathe out, the peaks are going to start going further. And every now and then you can take breaks, 5-10 minute breaks, and jump back on. But at no time should the sensation feel sharp or like you've torn something. Everything should feel gradual, and you don't want to push yourself while you're on this device either. So just to give you guys an idea of how I used to sleep before using the Psoas-RITE, my lower back would never contact the bed. So if you can see right here, my back is almost entirely flat on the ground. But before, since my psoas muscle was so tight, pulling my lower back into this anterior pelvic tilt, I'd feel like this. So this muscle would always be overworked over here, and I'd feel a lot of nerve pressure and radiating achiness from my spine, sometimes even going to my groin and upper thigh area. And the first night, even though it took me a while getting used to using the Psoas-RITE, that first night I felt my lower back for the first time in months hit and make contact with the bed. So I was actually able to get like a sound and peaceful, satisfying sleep that night. So results don't happen in 1 day, 2 days. Sometimes it takes up to a week. For me, it took 3 days for me to actually get rid of all my pain. And I owe that largely to this tool right here, the Psoas-RITE. And it's not just a cheap piece of plastic, what people like to believe. It's actually an ingenious device for self-rehabbing yourself. You know, if you just make a one-time expense, it might save you a lot of money in the future, and it's just a great tool to have for general health and well-being. So my right side is the tightest side of my body. That was the side that was giving me the most issues. And since that first week or two of having the Psoas-RITE, I haven't had a terrible episode of back pain since then. I've now had the Psoas-RITE for a couple months, and it's just been a lifesaver. You know, I was exploring other options like getting MRIs and, you know, getting surgery, talking to my physician, but I wanted to try to handle things by myself before I went into the professional world, because the last thing you ever want to do is go under the knife and get a surgery you may regret or you may not be able to afford. Right here is just a simple tool, but probably one of the most effective myofascial release devices on the planet. And people say you can get like a baseball or lacrosse ball or something. It doesn't come close to the feeling you get while using the Psoas-RITE. That's just my honest opinion. But I'd say if you're having an episode or you've been having some issues with your back, this isn't a bad option to try out, and you can just always return it if you would like. Yeah, so right now, this is the spot. I'm hitting the psoas muscle. It's kind of not on my upper ribs, not on my lower ribs, but it's in the cavity where my mid floating ribs are, and my hip bone. So if you guys can see, my hip bone is here, upper ribs are here, and the peak is resting right around here. And I'm in a relaxed enough state where my body has opened up a cavity to allow the peak to get deeper and deeper. So if you can't see, my left knee is up at the same time. I'm kind of leaning towards my right shoulder in a semi-twisted position. And I'm not fully exhaling yet, because the more you let go, the more powerful the sensation can be. And if you're not ready for that, it might be too much to handle. So once you feel like you're on the spot, you can make semi-adjustments and just focus on gradually letting the muscle go. So in this position, I feel just the entire psoas band from the front of my body and the back just kind of slowly dissipating, and the pain just almost dispersing into thin air. And again, these are all the tips that work for me and the methods I like to use. Everyone out there might have a different way of hitting their psoas muscle or just using this tool in general. But I just wanted to share you guys the effectiveness of the Psoas-RITE and just how I like to use it. Again, guys, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy who used this tool and got real results from it. And I'm just sharing you guys my opinions and my methods on how to use it. If you feel like you're having serious issues, you should consult your physician before attempting any of these methods here. But if you do so happen to stumble yourself across the Psoas-RITE, you can always refer to my video or other videos like this on YouTube, or just contact Psoas-RITE themselves, and they'd probably most likely help you out. So that's the end of this video. If you guys liked it, please give me a big thumbs up. It really helps me in the YouTube algorithm. Again, this is your boy Jason signing in, signing out. Os.